Hi everybody, how is it going? I'm Jim from Jim Shape Coding, and our topic for this tutorial going to be error handling. And this is very important because this is the point where most of the programmers get really confused, and I want to make sure by the end of this video you will totally understand how you can handle your own errors. Now, before we start, think of a situation where you are writing some code, but the success of the code is not dependent on you, but it also depends on, let's say, a website that you try to gather some information from it. So take a situation where you want to pull some information from a website, but this website went down temporarily and your code is not going to be successfully run anymore. Or think of a situation where you want to read some file, but you just mix up the file name and then your entire program crashes because you did not specify the correct name of your file. Well, those are the situations where you want to handle your errors because you can write your own messages if the program is crashing or something just went wrong. So how we are going to do that? So for a simple example, what I want to do is actually trying to print something that is not illegal with the Python. Because if I'm trying to print a variable that is not even existing or are not declared by me, then you bet that this program is not going to run. So if I run this, you see that I get back name error, name X is not defined. Now, in order to show you the exceptions bigger, what I'm going to do in this episode is actually running all the Python code from my terminal, so you should be able to run your Python files from the command prompt as well. So you can also execute your Python files from the command prompt, but if you prefer to not deal with that right now, it's fine. Simply execute any file you want from the PyCharm itself. So what I'm going to do is running this program from the command line. Alright, so if I write Python and then the names file, and I am running the terminal from the directory that my file is there. So if I run this, you'll see that I get the exception. So we totally understand why this happens, right? It's because the X variable is not defined anywhere and we are trying to print it. So in this situation, what I can do is actually taking this code and put that inside a block that is called try. Like the if statement as we learned before, or the while loop or the for loop, what we have to do is simply writing try and then the colon, and right after that write some code that you are going to test if it is going to work or not. Now, what try comes together with is the except block. So I have to get out of my try block and also adding here the except and add the colon sign for now. And what I can do here is something that is going to say to me, you got something wrong in your program. Alright, so we are handling the error, but we do not know what error we are talking about, so we are displaying a random message if something goes wrong. So if I run this time, you see that I don't get the error, but I just get the message itself. Now what happens is that Python goes into that try block and it tries to execute each line one after each other, and whenever it crashes or something is wrong with that, then he immediately jumps to that except block and he is going to run definitely what it is inside the except block. But pay attention to this, okay? If our code inside the try block is actually fine and there is nothing wrong with that, then the Python will not enter to that except block because nothing went wrong and there is no errors and everything is fine. So in order to prove my point, what I'm going to do is simply changing this from X, which is not defined, to a string like Jim. So there's nothing wrong with running strings that are actually defined, alright? So if I run this time, you see that I get that Jim only because Python has no reason to enter the except block. So let's look into some of the error types that we have in Python. So until now, what we have done is simply writing a simple message if any kind of exception is happened. But our problem is that we do not handle any specific exception. So no matter what is wrong with my try block, then Python is going to enter that except block. Now what I want to show you is handling specific errors like zero division error. So in order to show you, what I'm going to do is simply try to divide any number by 0. So we will have num4 divided by 0, okay? And we will try to print this. And then if I go down here and run this and I do not touch anything with the except block yet, I still get that you got something wrong in your program. So in any programming language, you have the ability to handle specific errors, or what you call catching the specific errors in any kind of programming language. So how we do that? So what we have to do is actually going to our except and hit the spacebar, and right after that you can write error in your IDE. And what PyCharm, for example, will do, it will show you a drop down of any kind of built-in errors that are existing in Python. So if we go down, we can see any kind of errors, but what I'm looking now is actually an error called zero division error. And if we write something like this, think of that like a story that I'm telling to someone. So what you can do actually is thinking about the try except blocks as a story that might go wrong or might go okay. So we can tell it as, okay, I'm going to try divide a number by 0, but if there is a problem only with the zero division error, then print this message. So anything beyond that error, don't do anything, just crash the program as it is supposed to. So if we run this right now, we will get back the message that I'm expected to get back, because my error is actually really about zero division error. But if I go back to my try block and do something like print x or any kind of variable that is not actually defined, and if I run this, my program will immediately go back to that original exception and it will crash my program and tell me that you have got a name error. So this is also one more feature that you may add to your try except blocks, is actually handling a specific error throughout the execution of your program. So it is very important to be aware of those situations, and this way you can actually catch specific errors if you expect one to happen. So, as we finished the discussion about the try except blocks, what I want to show you is actually one final thing that will also help you to write more organized code. So let's say that you have your try block once again, and then you are trying to make some prints. Jimmy is a programmer, and then you are trying to make some addition, let's say like that, and then you are trying to print that. And then you are doing except, and you are just handling any kinds of errors, so nothing special here. So I'm going to write except, and then I'm going to write something went wrong. And right after that, what I want to do is talking about a new kind of block that you can also add to your program, but it is not necessary because only the try and except has to go together, and the block that I'm going to talk about is an optional one, and it actually helps you to write more organized code. So I'm talking about the finally statement. And what happens with the finally statement is that the code under the finally is going to run no matter what happens with the try block. Even if the try goes to the except or does not go to except, it will jump to finally no matter what is the case. So we can run here something like, print, I'm going to run always. So if we execute this program, you see that I'm going to run always appears in my terminal. So in order to show you my point, this was a situation where try runs successfully. But let's make here a name error or something like that and try to print that num without creating it. So if I run this one more time, you see that I'm going to run always is also running. But check out that the Jim is a programmer also ran successfully, and that happened because there was nothing wrong with printing this one, but there was actually something wrong with printing a variable that is not defined. So you can use finally also, and you can include that in your try except blocks if you want to write more organized code and more readable code. And that is it about error handling. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I hope that this was clear. Don't forget to crack the subscribe button and also like this video. I will see you in the next episode.